Well, thanks again for joining us this evening and giving us a couple extra minutes to get things situated. So at this time, it is 6:01. Oh, thank you. That's better. This is the Town Council meeting of Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023, right here in the Yucca Valley Community Center, Yucca Room. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order.
Councilmember Zabel, Droz,
Here.
Lombardo,
Here.
Schooler,
Here.
and Mayor Dennison.
Here, Councilmember Droz will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on tonight, we're going to move into presentations and introductions and recognitions. So I'll turn it over to staff. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be moving item number 1 for the recognition. We'll go in that order. I'll be turning that over to Councilmember Schooler.
Okay, thank you. The Spirit of Yucca Valley Award is something that we do periodically to recognize exceptional achievements and accomplishments of somebody in our community. And this evening we get to pay tribute to Evelyn Conklin, who give you a little bit of a history lesson here. She was the original curator of the High Desert Nature Museum. Prior to that, she was down in the Los Angeles area and was instrumental in the establishment of several natural history facilities, including, I think I have a list here, the Arboretum, the Los Angeles County Museum, and Santa Barbara Nature Museum. So she was very well accomplished before she and her father, named Slim Conklin, moved out to the Pipes Canyon area. In 1964, the director of Parks and Recreation, which it was a fledgling agency at that time, he was looking for contributions from the community or suggestions from the community on how to do parks and recreation kinds of things in the community. We didn't have a lot of parks. There was High Desert Park, which is now Jacobs Park, over on the west end of town, and that was the park. And Evelyn Conklin responded to his request, and she said, well, what about a nature museum? She, at this time, had quite a personal collection of artifacts, rocks, stones, natural elements, and even small animals. And so she was able to start the museum in a little building, which is still there in the middle of Jacobs Park, and that was the original museum. And she worked there. I was actually talking to my wife this week. I said, we're going to recognize Evelyn Conklin. And she said, she grew up here, my wife did, and she said, Evelyn Conklin, she was great. I went there to that park, and every time I would go into the museum, and I loved seeing all the stuff there, and Evelyn Conklin. Now, we're talking about growing up a long time ago. I mean, the Park District started in 1964 or around there. And so this is 50 years ago, you know, that my wife, I shouldn't even say that, should I? But this was a lot of years ago that my wife was growing up in this community. This is being taped, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, Evelyn Conklin made a huge contribution to the community at that time and to the Parks Department. When this community center was built in about 1972-73, the museum facility was built, and she was able to move the collection over, and she started a museum association of supporters. Most of everything that was in the museum was her personal collection at the beginning, but it grew with donations and animal collections. So what is still over there in the museum, the animal collection, a lot of the artifacts that are in there, the rocks, the minerals, the taxidermy that's still over there. There's still some over there. That was her contribution. Now, mind you, this was from 1964. Her career, she retired about when the town incorporated, maybe a little bit before that. So that was in 1991. So she had about a 30-year career here after her contributions in the LA area. So about the time the town incorporated, there was an earthquake, and a lot of things happened in the museum. A lot of the collection was either destroyed or it was kind of a redo. The earthquake caused a redo at the museum. So, and by that time it had been expanded into a larger facility, but the collection had to be redone, but a lot of Evelyn Conklin's contributions remained. And she kept an eye on us all that time. She still keeps an eye on us from her home in Pipes Canyon. So just kind of want to run through a few of the lasting contributions, and thank you, staff, for providing this. But in terms of education, from its inception, visitors would come to the museum to identify and research local flora and fauna, including wildflowers, insects, and reptiles. The mini zoo that's still over there now, the living exhibits, Evelyn established the mini zoo, which includes several different species, including snakes and lizards. One particular snake, Greenella, the green Mojave rattlesnake, was featured in a film on a state aqueduct project. Rotating exhibits, Evelyn's collection was so extensive, she employed a rotating exhibit system which rotated displays including gem and mineral specimens, shells, insects, birds, eggs, and nests. Her displays also included mounted specimens, including local mammals and birds. The wildflower collection, Evelyn began the display of Henry Mockel's wildflower serigraphs with 12 prints. This collection has grown significantly over the years, and many of the serigraphs are currently on display in the Natural History Room. Fluorescent display room, which was called the Glow Room for many, many years, probably still is by a lot of the locals, is still in use today. Inside, visitors can see the fluorescent properties of rocks and minerals which glow under the black light. And artist exhibits. Evelyn proudly displayed rotating exhibits featuring local artists, which is being done today. And this is kind of a tradition that I remember. I got to work alongside Evelyn at a certain point in my career, and her relationship with local artists was exceptional. She kind of got our public art program launched, even though that wasn't probably the intent, but she kind of did launch it. And artists with works currently on display include Mark Young, Karen Morton, Howard Pierce, Kirk Martin, and Henry Mockel. So Evelyn's career lasted, like I said, about 30 years in Yucca Valley. She worked for the Park District. Made an exceptional contribution to this community. A lot of people who have been around a while remember her, but even if you don't, you can go over and see her contributions to the community. So with that, I think it's appropriate that we recognize Evelyn Conklin with the Spirit of Yucca Valley Award.
Councilmember Schooler, thank you much. What a heartwarming story of Evelyn's journey here for our community. We do have a presentation also up front.
Mayor, as you're coming up to the podium this evening, it's our understanding that Ms. Conklin wasn't able to be here with us this evening, so we've arranged for Celeste Hildebrand, our High Desert Nature Museum supervisor, to accept the tribute on her behalf, and we'll make sure that Evelyn not only gets the presentation certificate, but we'll also make her aware of the recording so she can at least take part in that as well as have that for her record.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Celeste, for joining us this evening. So on this Spirit of Yucca Valley Award, it states that this certificate is awarded to Evelyn Conklin for your positive contributions to the town of Yucca Valley over the last 59 years, including in establishing the High Desert Nature Museum and serving as the curator for 28 years. Your dedication and commitment is appreciated by the residents of Yucca Valley and the Yucca Valley Town Council. Presented this third day of October 2023. Absolutely, please do.
I just wanted to thank the council for thinking of Evelyn and giving her this award. She has been an inspiration to countless community members, visitors, as well as museum staff. So I know that she appreciates this, and we appreciate it from the museum as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just wanted to share with the council that I spoke with Ms. Conklin, and she says thank you. She was very excited and very appreciative of this recognition, and she was excited that Celeste was going to be able to accept on her behalf, but she wanted to thank the council.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was such a wonderful story. I didn't realize, and I did know that was the museum over there in our Jacobs Park area, and it was, the beginning of what we have today, and it's still standing. It's amazing. What a journey. Thank you for sharing that story. Moving on, now we'll move on. I had these mixed up to the introduction of new employees.
We have a couple of new employees this evening, so I'm going to turn it over to staff to introduce the employees.
I'll start. Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. I would like to introduce to you Victor Ladua. Victor is joining us as in the engineering department as our engineering technician 2. Victor graduated from Southern Utah University with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and after college went to work on a medical center in the American Samoas. Victor relocated to Yucca Valley with his wife and son from Cedar City, Utah, to be closer to family that live in Yucca Valley. He is currently working towards his professional engineer's license. Fun fact about Victor, he is trilingual, English, Fijian, and Samoan. I hope that that's okay. We are happy to have him here and looking forward to see him grow in the position. And on behalf of the council, we would like to welcome Victor to the team.
Thank you and welcome, Victor. Did you want to say anything this evening? You're more than welcome.
have
We'd
to
love
say
to
a
get
couple
to
of
know you a
words.
little bit more. Such an interesting background.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Alex. Just wanted to say I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to work with Alex and Shane and work with you guys, and as well as serving the town of Yucca Valley. So I'm just excited to be here and ready to roll. I know we have a lot of projects coming up and stuff, so I'm excited.
You do. We'll keep you busy. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Michael De Laurentiis, if you could join me up front, please. Mayor and Council, it's always a pleasure to introduce members of the team, new members of the team, to the council and the community this evening. I want to introduce Michael. Michael is a new addition at the animal shelter. Michael is a part-time kennel technician. He has been a longtime resident of Yucca Valley. He served in the United States Navy, and we've been fortunate enough to bring him on board as the newest team member at the shelter. As usual, I always quiz the employees. Do you want to talk or say anything in the microphone when we introduce you? Michael said, no, thank you, not this evening. So with that, we really want to welcome Michael on board. Very happy to have him working at our animal shelter. So.
Welcome, Michael, and we all love our animal shelter and the care that's provided to those animals there, and also the best times is when they reunite with their lost owners. Thank you very much. Anyone else this evening? Okay. I'm going to mix the schedule up just a little bit, and we have a new Southern California Edison representative, Shane Massoud. He's here and taking the taking the place of Jennifer Kuzak, which served us for many years here in the area. So it's nice to have a new representative. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Town Council. Once again, my name is Shane Massoud. I'm your new Government Relations Manager for Southern California Edison. Looking forward to working with you all. Just a little bit about me. I've been in the government and public affairs realm for about 10 years now. I worked for a local state senator, Senator Mike Morrell. He represented some of the communities in the Inland Empire. I worked for Caltrans as their public information officer, and then I also worked for a local city in San Bernardino County. On a personal note, I grew up in San Bernardino County. I've been married for 7 years. We have, my wife and I have 2 little boys, and in our free time, we enjoy the outdoors and camping. As you highlighted, I'm looking forward to continuing the success and strengthening our relationship as my predecessor did, Jennifer Cusack, and hope I can continue the great work that she established here in the community. Once again, thanks for having me, and look forward to working together.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to visit us. Moving on now, we'll be looking for approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
I will second that.
Right, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmembers Droz,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Dennison.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on now to the consent agenda. All the items listed on consent agenda are routine matters of formal discussion and documents covering previous town council instruction items enacted in one motion and a second without separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comment on the consent agenda should also be filed with the town clerk. At this time, is there anyone in the public that'd like to make any comments on our consent agenda? No? Back to council. Any items wanting for discussion?
No, I'll move that we accept the the consent agenda.
Okay, Lombardo moves and
A second?
Schooler seconds. Thank you.
Councilmembers Droz,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Dennison.
Yes. Now we have a public hearing this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. This is for master fee schedule resolution.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be presenting the public hearing to recommend the resolution to establish the master fee schedule and rescinding all fee resolution and conflict therein. So I'll go ahead and present a few slides, and then we also have an additional couple slides from our professional service provider, Wildan, so bear with me here as I'll get through a few of these. So just for background, the last comprehensive or master user fee schedule that was adopted by the town was in 2004. We're almost reaching the 20-year anniversary, so we're really excited to have this updated. In 2021, the town hired Wildan Financial Services to complete a user fee study report, which accurately calculated all the staff's time and overhead and all the costs related to the current user fees to then put that in the report that's included in the agenda this evening. We presented a draft of that report to council. The policy guidance returned was to potentially phase in the implementation of those fee increases and also to develop a cost recovery policy. Staff returned to council in just a few months ago in June for a full cost recovery policy that recommends any fee subsidies that council or staff may recommend in the future. And then we're here today to then adopt that fee study report in tandem with the cost recovery policy to have the master fee schedule. So as I mentioned, the two guiding documents that we'll be using this evening is the comprehensive user fee study report and then that adopted cost recovery policy to then implement the master fee schedule. The most important item I wanted to highlight on that master fee schedule is the phased-in approach that council recommended. We went ahead and implemented that in thirds. So as of today and through 2023, there will be no fee increases. All the fees will remain the same. That is helpful for town staff also to just administer and prepare to change all the documents, schedules, calendars, everything that kind of coincides with those fees. The first fee increase will be effective of the 1st of July 2024. That will increase each fee by 1/3 of the total increase that's recommended in the fee study report. And then the next increase will be July 2026, and then full cost recovery will be reached in July of 2028. Those dates are also recommended as they coincide with the 2-year strategic plan and then the 2-year budget cycle. And then again, it gives staff time to prepare all the documents that public can have access to properly fill out reports, receipts, et cetera. So with that, we have a representative from Wildan who will be here to talk about the actual report, all the details. So I'm going to have her come up and she will walk through the rest of the presentation and then we can answer questions at the end.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name's Priti Patel, and I'm with Wilden Financial Services. So what are user fees? They provide a private benefit with limited or no community benefit. State law requires that individual use of the service must be voluntary, and fees must be reasonably relate to the services provided. Fee levels and cost recovery determined through town council fee adoption. This does not include development, impact fees, utility rates, or taxes, and also business licenses, none of that. So why would we update user fees? Well, there are subsidies and services that impact the general fund. They provide private and specific benefit services are subsidized by unobligated funding sources. Also reduces the ability to fund general and community benefits. And you would also want to update user fees because there would be decreased department funding, typically results in understaffing and reduces service quality. Cost recovery knowledge and planning also provides clarity of pressures on city resources, enables city to strategize and set fees to benefit of the city and community, and state requirements for reasonable cost-based fees. So some of the user fee objectives and steps was to determine what the full cost was of providing that fee or service or program with the town. So the staff reviewed the fee schedules based on service delivery. They identified potential new fees that were not currently collecting revenues on. They also reduced or removed fees that they were no longer using. And we used the fully burdened rates and calculated what the full cost recovery is. So to update the fees for services based on cost analysis, we incorporated or established cost recovery goals, which the town just did recently. This allows subsidies allow access to services and facilitate compliance. Also with the cost recovery, it also identified appropriate fee levels that enhance reasonability and applicability, maintain consistency with local policies and objectives, and maintain legal compliance with state law. So the scope of the study, the below departments and divisions that we included in this fee study were town hall clerk, code compliance, animal control, animal shelter, building, planning, engineering, and rec fees. And so the primary types of data that was used for this user fee study was expenditure data, staffing structures, central service indirect overhead, productive billable hours, and time estimates from staff to complete tasks, city department input, feedback, and policies. And I do want to emphasize that staff did put a lot of work into this project, and it's taken a few years to get this completed at the stage where we're at now. So this is just a summary steps of the study. The first step was a model development where we collected all the data, we built the model, and we calculated what the overhead and fully burdened hourly calculation. The next step was the cost analysis. We did staff meetings, updated the fee schedules, and we received time data from staff of all the personnel that's involved with that fee, and it determined what the full cost was for that service. The next step was to set the cost recovery. We looked at what the current cost recovery and what the target cost recovery is for each fee. Then we did the fee study report. We created the draft report, staff reviewed it, and you have the finalized report in front of you. And now we're at the last step, which is the public hearing to adopt the fee adoption. So the departments that are to be full cost recovery, this was all based on time-based cost analysis, and staff is recommending a gradual increase on most of the fees each year. So within 5 years, the fees would be at 100% cost recovery. And that includes town hall clerk, code compliance, animal control, animal shelter, planning, and engineering. And for building, staff is recommending a new fee format to allow for more streamlined list of fees and services. It was based on time-based cost analysis by using the fully burdened hourly rates for the city and the contract personnel that are involved. Current cost recovery is around 61%, and the intent of the suggested fee schedule is to achieve full cost recovery. For the rec fees, most are use of government property and should be based on policy, usage, and market factors. The current cost recovery is around 8%, and staff is recommending a gradual increase on most of the fees each year so that within 5 years, the fees would only increase by 10%. And some policy considerations is this: individuals or groups who receive the private benefit from service should pay 100% of the cost. In certain situations, subsidization is an effective public policy tool. That includes the rec fees to encourage participation, ensure compliance when cost is prohibitive to residents, and promote access to services. It is recommended that the town utilize an inflation factor annually to adjust the fees based on CPI, MOU, or another factor. And also to do another fee study should be done around every 4 to 6 years. And is there any questions?
Well, thank you. There was a lot of work. I went through the fee schedule and a deep dive in all the services that we do within our town. I'll start off first. Is there anyone from the public that has any questions for the presentation today in the hearing? Seeing none, moving it back to council. Questions from council? Yes, Councilmember School.
Yes, I think you just said that we should be doing this every 4 to 6 years.
Yes.
And we're playing catch-up from 2004. So our implementation stretches out over 5 years, so we should be starting a new fee study at the end of that period, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I can help answer that question. She asked me the same thing just a minute ago. So part of the policy recommendation would be to return to council and review CPI. So in that phased implementation, you would be looking at the fee schedule again to see how CPI affected the increases as we go. So we'll be looking at them every year. And then yes, by the end of the phased implementation, we will be starting a new time study report and start this process over again, just so we keep it up to date and we're not catching up 40% increase in the next 5 years.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the work. I can see where this is pretty comprehensive, and I think you said you started on it 2 years ago. It's a lot of work, so thank you to staff and to the consultant for that.
I'd like to mention two things. One, I was very happy to see the animal control and shelter services that we have. There were very small increases over the timeline that we were looking at during our 2-year budget cycle, and also recreation, that the community can use the facilities that they have for them to use in whatever activities they choose. The one thing that I saw in this, I don't know, I didn't understand this page, on stamp page 138, the last part of that frame there, it's under building miscellaneous, and there's dollar figures after items 131 to 138. And then I understand the fees at the end, but I never understood what those dollar amounts were for, or what they represent. Did staff find that line?
Can you repeat the page number again?
I have it as 138 packet page. And the last frame under miscellaneous, each of those items, well, most of them except a couple, have a dollar figure, a very small dollar figure. I didn't know if that was some kind of,
I would have to ask
what the value
a
meant.
rep from Building and Safety for those particular fee items to
Okay.
confirm that, but we can circle back on it for sure.
Yeah, most of them are like $20, so it's not a big number item on that. And I don't even believe it was entered into the final rate that we looked at.
Correct. It looks like it's part of our notes that might have just ended up in the fee name.
Okay.
Excuse me.
And one last thing is, Councilmember Schooler had talked about what cycle we would use. When we do follow annual CPI for potential changes in the rates, would those rates then be implemented the same as our 2-year budget cycle as we're doing right now, or will that change to yearly?
We would return to council and see what that increase would look like. So it would be adopted per resolution with council recommendations. So we would bring that back to you to see if you would want to include it in the next phase of implementation, and that flexibility would be within your policy direction.
I guess we have a little bit of time to see how it works, whether one.
Yes.
So I appreciate the presentation very much and the answers to that. And with it, with nothing from the public back at council, I would like to go ahead and move. Oh, yes.
Just one
Mayor
other
Pro Tem.
question. Was the CPI the best indicator to use for cost increases in the future? Are there other ones that might be more
So
tailored to
since
this type of thing?
Since user fees are based off of all of our labor costs, it would be most efficient and make the most sense to align that with what we increase our labor costs with. So we use CPI, we look at it in March of every year, so we would want to use that same factor, so as our labor costs increase, the user fees would increase.
Okay, that would make sense. Okay, thank you.
With that, I'd go ahead and like to make the motion to adopt the resolution number 23-XX, establishing the master fee schedule and rescinding all fee resolutions in conflict with therein.
All second.
Councilmembers Droz,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Dennison.
Yes, and thank you for the presentation. So I'll close the public hearing, and we will now move back onto our agenda, and we're on agenda item number 9, community livability survey report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, one prior comment on the last agenda item, just a shout out to Jordan and really the entire town team. We set out about over a year and a half ago and identified October, November timeframe of 2023 to have this before the council. It's a number of different parts that go into that, as you saw today, including policy development that the council previously adopted. All of that had to be timed and delivered, and we've met that time frame. So thank you to Jordan and her team for getting that done. Community livability survey is a pretty exciting time for us. We do this on a 2-year basis. Every 2 years, we go out as part of our process whereby we start with understanding the needs of the community and the sentiment of the community, what their priorities are from year to year. They may change, and we want to get that feedback. The council will remember that what we do with this information when we get it is we begin to then use it as the council develops their strategic plan for the next 2-year cycle, which you'll be undertaking in both November and December. Hopefully, we'll have that completed by the end of December. And then that strategic plan is reflected in your upcoming 2-year budget. And so that's the cycle that we've used. And so to ensure that we have consistency, we've been able to use the same provider for this community livability survey, True North, and Dr. McClarney is the principal with that. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. McClarney to walk through the community livability survey results for 2023.
Great. Thank you, Curtis. And good evening, Mayor, members of council.
Good evening.
Dr. Tim McClarney, President of True North Research. And as Curtis mentioned, we're a firm that specializes in doing this work for cities and municipalities around the state. To date, my business partner and I have worked on over 1,200 research studies for public agencies, and about 500 of those are community opinion surveys or citizen satisfaction surveys, similar to the type of study that we'll be talking about this evening. So I mentioned that mainly because as I go through tonight's presentation, there's probably a couple times where I might mention how the results that we're seeing here in Yucca Valley compared to the results that we are seeing in other types of cities or typically see. And so I just wanted you to have a sense from the experience base from which I'd be speaking. I also welcome questions from town council as I go or at the end, whichever is your preference. And with that, is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, I believe they're ready to move your screen on.
All right. So does everybody have that on your end?
And there you go. Yep, you're looking good. Thank you.
Great. So let me go ahead and advance this. Okay, so before we talk about the results, it's helpful to talk a little bit about the methodology of the study or how we went about conducting the study. We use the same methodology we have in recent surveys for the town of Yucca Valley, where we use what's called stratified random sampling to select a random sample of adults from the town. And we make sure that that sample is balanced and aligned with census estimates on key demographics. Once we have selected our sample, we reach out using 3 different recruiting methods: email, text, and telephone. The email and the text invitations have hyperlinks that people can click to come into our system. Each one of those hyperlinks is unique to that respondent. And what that ensures is that only those individuals who we send an invite to can access the site. They can take the survey one time. They can't take it multiple times. They can't forward it on to others to take. And so this allows us to control the sampling design. Individuals have the option of participating by telephone or online, whichever is their preference, in English or Spanish. And in the end, we had 453 completed interviews among your Yucca Valley adults. Because this is a random sample of 453 and not a census of all of your adult residents, has what's known as a margin of error due to sampling. In this case, that's plus or minus 4.5%. What that means is we can be 95% confident that the results I'll share with you this evening are within 4.5% of what we would have found had we spoken with all adult residents. So on to the results. The first slide here shows the results of the first set of questions in the survey, where we ask respondents to rate Yucca Valley on a series of dimensions. So as a place to retire, the overall quality of life in town, as a place to raise a family, and as a place to work, and as a place to shop and dine. And as you can see here on the slide, ratings are a bit mixed. At the top of the list, Yucca Valley as a place to retire, you have 65% who rate it as an excellent or good. Overall quality of life in town at 61%. And then as a place to raise a family, 44% rated as excellent or good. When you get to the topics of as a place to work or as a place to shop and dine, obviously the ratings are a bit softer there. When you compare these results in 2023 to those of the 2021 survey, there were no statistically significant changes. In other words, the perceptions of the town have stayed the same over the last 2 years on these dimensions. So following up that slide, we have an open-ended question where we ask individuals, what do you like most about Yucca Valley that the town government should make sure to preserve in the future? By open-ended, what I mean by that is we don't provide them with the list that you see here on this slide. We simply give them the opportunity to tell us in their own words what they'd like most to preserve. We went back and looked at those verbatim responses and then grouped them into the categories you see here. So at the top of the list, you see protecting nature and environmental preservation, about 18%. About 15% who couldn't think of anything in particular that they wanted to preserve. And then the third option there is protecting the small town atmosphere and character of the community at 12% on down. What is interesting is if you look at the answers to this question back over time, there's a really consistent theme we see year in and year out, and that is the theme of preserving Yucca Valley's sort of quiet, small town character, along with the natural environment of the community. So after that open-ended, we have another open-end, which is sort of the flip side of this. The last one was about what you want to preserve. This slide shows the answers to the question, if the town government could change one thing to make Yucca Valley a better place to live, what change would you like to see? You can see at the very top of the list here, we've got reduce, limit, or regulate short-term vacation rentals, about 13%, providing more high-end restaurants and dining opportunities at about 11%, improving infrastructure, 9%, and providing more high-end shopping centers and retail stores at about 9%. The top responses to this question have remained pretty consistent over time. And in fact, the ranking is the same in 2023 as it is in 2021 for the top 4. Okay, so after those questions, we get to what we call our overall performance rating for the town. And it's the answers to the question, generally speaking, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the job the town of Yucca Valley is doing to provide municipal services? Because we're asking individuals to sort of comment on the town's overall performance. We're not referencing a specific aspect like streets and roads or police. It can be thought of as an overall performance rating for the town. And shown here are the results from 2023 on the far left side, and then all the way over to 2017 on the far right. Overall, in 2023, we had 2/3 of respondents say that they were satisfied with the town's efforts to provide municipal services. You've got about 26, 27% who are dissatisfied, and the rest being unsure. What is striking about this graphic is how consistent it is over time. You might remember that we had this thing that landed in 2020 called the pandemic, and it sort of fundamentally changed in a lot of ways how cities were able to operate, and many cities had to sort of reinvent themselves in terms of how do we continue providing these services when you have social distancing, when you have the need to avoid large group settings, et cetera. And what we saw in a lot of cities from sort of 2020 to now was this drop off in terms of resident satisfaction, right, with city services. And yet, when you look at your numbers, it's almost as if the pandemic never happened, right? That you see this very consistent line going across in terms of the percentage of your residents who are satisfied. And so very, very steady numbers, not easy to achieve. So that is an accomplishment. Now, that last slide talked about the city's or the town's overall performance in providing municipal services. Here we dive in and to all these specific service areas, and we essentially ask the same question. Generally speaking, are they satisfied or dissatisfied with the town's efforts to provide this particular service? And these are asked in a random order, but we've sorted them from high to low here based on the combined percentage of folks who said they were either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied. At the top of the list, you see fire protection, prevention, emergency medical services, followed by providing special events like community festivals and the 4th of July celebration, providing parks and sports fields and recreation facilities. All of those are kind of very high levels of satisfaction. As you move down the list, you get to the bottom, you see a couple items that stand out from the rest, attracting new employers and jobs to town. So we're seeing sort of a consistent theme over the last few slides so far about an interest in economic development and interest in new employers and improving the job market locally. And then you also have addressing homelessness there as well. When you compare the results in 2023 to where the town was in 2021, there were 4 statistically significant increases in satisfaction and 2 decreases. The significant increases occurred with respect to providing fire protection, prevention, and emergency medical services. That went up 5%. Providing special events like community festivals and the 4th of July celebration, that went up 10%. The enforcing regulations on short-term vacation rentals, plus 7% in terms of satisfaction. And then also managing traffic congestion, that one went up plus 10%. The 2 significant drops occurred with the one at the very bottom of the list there, attracting new employers and jobs to town. That went down 11%. And then the other one that declined was preparing the town for emergencies and disasters. That went down about 8%. So in the net, you have more statistically significant increases in satisfaction than you do decreases. Shifting gears here, we mentioned one of the things that you tested really well on this cycle was providing special events and community events to the town. And so we have a series of questions in this cycle, which is new for 2023 related to this. And the first one was we kind of asked individuals whether they or anyone else in their household had attended a community activity or event hosted by the town of Yucca Valley in the past 2 years. You can see that about 2/3 of respondents indicated yes, answered in the affirmative. They and or their members of their household had attended an event or activity hosted by the town. As you might expect, this is highest for households with children. It's also highest for long-term residents who have been in the town 15 years or longer. We then went on to present the list of events that you see here on the left side of the slide, and we simply asked them, if this was provided by the town, how interested would they be in attending this type of event next year? You can see that interest was highest for a farmer's market. You had 94% of respondents say that they would be interested in attending that kind of event next year, followed by street fairs and then art cultural events such as art festivals and summer concerts. But even if you go to the bottom of the list, you've got activities that may be a little more narrow in terms of their target audience. So events designed for families with children, for example, you still have 70% of residents who indicated interest in attending these types of events in the next year. Continue on this theme a bit, we went on to ask respondents whether during the past year they or others in their household had used each of the facilities or amenities that you see here on this slide. Park or playground obviously was the number one here, followed by hiking trails with 74%, 67% respectively, indicating that they or other members of their household had used these facilities in the past year. And then it starts to sort of trail off from there: baseball, softball fields, soccer fields, basketball courts on down. The very bottom, you got pickleball courts at about 12%. I do this type of work for a lot of cities. I can tell you that The pickleball crowd is passionate about their sport. Sometimes you hear they're a little more vocal than the actual number of people you have playing that sport, and the 12% figure is pretty consistent with what I've seen in other communities as well. So very passionate, and it's a great sport. So from there, although we asked about the types of facilities and amenities they had used, we also wanted to get a sense of were there any particular amenities or facilities that aren't currently offered by the town that they think should be a high priority for the town's future. Open-ended response, meaning they could tell us sort of off the top of their head what they're most interested in. And about half of the respondents basically said nothing comes to mind, or there isn't anything specific that they'd like to see the town add in terms of a rec facility or amenity. Beyond that, though, among the specific answers, an aquatic center or community pool was tops at 10%, roller skating rink at 5%, movie theater 4%, then bike trails at 4% on down. So a lot of variation, a lot of facilities that sort of wind up in the 1 to 2% of mentions from respondents. Earlier, I think we had a presentation related to the High Desert Nature Museum. We did have some questions this cycle related to that facility, the first of which was simply whether they or others in their household had visited the High Desert Museum in Yucca Valley in the last 2 years. You see about half of respondents answered in the affirmative. When you dig behind that and you look at who is attending or who is visiting the museum, the highest rates tend to be among long-term residents, people who have lived in the town at least 15 years, households with children, as you might imagine, 25 to 34-year-olds, as well as those who are employed on a part-time basis. When we asked those individuals who had visited the museum what types of activities they engaged in, you can see the distribution here. Viewing exhibits was the top response at 92%. Viewing a live animal exhibit at about 59%, and then engaging in the museum's Kids Corner activity area about 60% on down. We asked those folks who had visited the museum during this period of time how they'd rate their experience when visiting the High Desert Museum. Would they say it's excellent, good, fair, poor, or very poor? Overall, 85% of those who had visited the museum rated their experience as either excellent, good, which is a great score. And when we asked folks in an open-ended manner if they had any suggestions for how the Nature Museum could be improved, here again, you see almost 2/3 said no improvements come to mind, or I specifically don't have any ways of improving it. Among the specific improvements that were mentioned, providing more educational events was tops at around 11%. Expanding or enlarging the facility, 6%, adding exhibits to the museum at about 4% on down. So shifting gears a little bit, Town of Yucca Valley, like all municipalities, has a limited budget and probably a list of things that's much longer and would take a lot more budget to complete. And so you have to set priorities, right? You have to decide of the resources you have, how you're going to spend those resources. And so we take the opportunity in the survey each cycle to ask that same question to residents, right? Keeping in mind that not everything could be a high priority. How would you prioritize the town's future spending when it comes to the specific items that you see here on this list? Should this be a high priority, a medium priority, low priority, not a priority? One thing we did a little different this cycle is we kind of zeroed in on the difference between maintaining and improving. So you'll see certain items in here that almost look like they're asked twice. So the very top one, say, maintain fire protection, emergency medical services. We also asked about improved fire protection, emergency medical services, which tests a little lower. What you tend to find consistently is there is more interest in maintaining a certain level of service than there is necessarily making improvements to that service. And that's a pretty consistent pattern here. But overall, when you look at the priorities that your residents have, they tend to fall in kind of the categories of public safety, public works, and economic development. So maintaining fire protection, emergency medical services at the top, maintaining, repairing local streets and roads, sidewalks and infrastructure, or improving those things are 2 and 3. Then you've got law enforcement, crime prevention, attracting commercial businesses to the town that provide higher paying jobs, et cetera. As you get to the bottom of the list here, keep in mind, these are items that test lower, but we kind of introduced a sense of competition into this question. We said not everything can be a high priority, so they're having to pick and choose. So it doesn't mean, for example, that providing more recreational facilities and opportunities is something the town isn't interested in. It's just that when push comes to shove, some of the things at the bottom of the list tend not to stack up against the core concerns of public safety and public works. So about 39% of the respondents we spoke with in 2023 had interacted with town staff in the past year. We asked those individuals to rate staff in terms of their professionalism, their helpfulness, and their accessibility. What you see here is about 9 out of 10 respondents gave high marks to staff for each one of these items. There were also no significant changes in terms of how staff were rated. So between 2021 and 2023, there was an increase in the percentage of residents that interacted with staff, but in terms of how they viewed staff's performance, it was consistently high between those two studies. Here's an interesting slide, interesting in the sense that, as I'll explain, it's different than the pattern we normally see. So we asked respondents to tell us overall how satisfied or dissatisfied with the town's efforts to communicate with residents through newsletters, the internet, local media, and other means they might be. And we're showing the results from 2023 going back to 2017. And you can see in 2023, you had about 2/3 of your respondents say that they were satisfied with the town's efforts to communicate with them. And that there was a statistically significant increase in that satisfaction between 2021 and 2023. What makes this unusual is you're one of the few municipalities that I've worked with that has managed to increase the satisfaction level with their communication in recent years. What we have seen in general is sort of the stepping down, and you see it between 17 and 2021, the sort of stepping down in community satisfaction with city resident communication. And that's in part because of just the added challenges. It's getting harder and harder for cities to communicate with residents as residents are getting their information at hundreds of different locations, right? We're not all in the same channels. We're harder to reach. Residents also tend to have somewhat higher expectations for sort of the immediacy of information today than they did previously. And what we've seen is just this general sort of stepping down in satisfaction. And yet 2023, you've reversed this trend and went up. So, you're swimming upstream and you're actually gaining ground, which is impressive. That said, we always want to stay on top of this issue, make sure that the ground is sort of shifting beneath our feet all the time in terms of communication and what sort of channels are out there. We asked residents to tell us, of all the ways you see here on the slide, how effective would these be for the town to communicate with you? And it's interesting that the top 3 here are all digital, right? Email, electronic newsletters, smartphone app, and text messages, and then followed by materials directly mailed to your home. Okay, so final thoughts. What does all this mean? I go into a lot more detail in the full report, and so I will be brief here. I think the main takeaway here is, despite the last sort of 4 years being historically challenging in many ways with the pandemic and all the spin-offs of that and what that has meant for public agencies and how they've had to reinvent themselves, the satisfaction with the town has remained remarkably stable, right? There's all this volatility happening in the background, and yet your satisfaction scores are very level. And so, that's pretty amazing. And again, a pattern I don't normally see. In terms of your overall satisfaction numbers are good. And we saw that, when you dig in on specific areas, your top performance areas are what you see here: your fire protection, prevention, and emergency services, special community events, parks and rec, as well as police services. That's sort of where you were testing the highest. We also saw an uptick in the percentage of residents who interacted with town staff in the past 2 years, and we're seeing, at least 85% of them giving town staff high ratings for you're being accessible and professional and helpful. And so, when you take those sort of 3 tiers at the top of the slide together and you think about, these studies as being a bit of a report card on the town's performance, this is a very good report card. I mean, considering, again, all the challenges have happened, this is great. This is the kind of results that you're hoping to see. That said, a survey like this should also be not just about how are we doing today, but, where might we have opportunities to improve in the future? And so those items I've shown here on the bullets below. It isn't because you're doing poorly in these areas, right? It's just that when you compare it to kind of some of the other areas we're performing better, or when you look at what residents prioritize in terms of future town spending, these are the areas sort of stand out as your best opportunities. And so with that, I end my presentation. I certainly welcome questions from council if there are any. And do I need to stop sharing my screen? Is that going to help?
Yeah, I think we're looking good now. Thank you for that presentation, Timothy. That's fantastic. I like stability, and I think that report demonstrated that quite clearly, especially in the challenges we've had over the last few years. So I'd like to open it up to the public for any public comments on this item. Online, anyone? No? Okay, well, thank you. We'll bring it back to council. Any council members, any comments? I have one myself, Timothy, if I may. When we were looking at the participation, you had captured 453 residents, and I was curious about the outreach that you're, what's your net that you're spreading? How many people do you try and attract to get that number?
Yeah, that has changed over time. Typically, we were operating in anywhere from a sort of a 20-to-1 to a 40-to-1, recognizing that not everybody's going to have viable contact information. Not everyone's, some people have their spam filter set to Fort Knox on their computer, and so there's just no way to slide an email in there. The text messaging, which we introduced a couple of years ago, has really helped because that sort of flies through for the most part. But, it's anywhere from 21 to 41 typically. What we're doing, though, we recognize that, and so when we set up our sample design, we're careful to make sure we're monitoring the demographics of our sample to make sure they're lining up with, the demographics of your community.
And thank you. And I think you were right when you talked about the top 3 ways to reach our audience out here, our community, is digital now. And so it looks like those tools are getting used more. We've increased our communication with the town digitally also. I think that's how we've maintained even increased that saturation of, messaging to our community. I think that's about it. I really appreciate the study. It's been one of the best tools that we've had over the last few years, and so I appreciate your work.
Mayor, if I might
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. McClarney, for your work this evening. A couple of final comments as you receive and file this item this evening. The information that we get from year to year is very important for staff, but even more important for the community and for the council as you begin to go forward with your strategic planning. And so what we would expect is that some of these priorities, some of these highlights, the things that we're doing great, the things that we're lacking in a little bit, ultimately will show up in your next strategic plan. And then that gives you the basis to know that you're being responsive to the community based on what their needs are, what they would like to see, and then trying to balance that out, obviously, as your strategic plan will then move into your budget plan for the next 2 years. So we would expect that to be reflected in the upcoming discussions on strategic plan. But these are very, very helpful for us because we want to be as transparent as we can to our public and let them know, hey, these are things that the town's doing pretty good, and these are areas that we can improve on. And we take that seriously, and then ultimately that will come through policy direction from the town council.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. It's one of the best tools we have. And I want to thank the community that was involved in this process and hope that our reach to them becomes even better to provide more direction. So thank you very much. And thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So it's a receive and file report, is that correct? Yes. We'll move on to item number 10 for tonight.
Mayor, if I can, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just add one additional item? In the agenda packet, this presentation and the report was not included, so to allow the presenter to provide the context for the report. This will be by the end of this week. This will be up on our website. The community can get both the presentation and the summary report. We'll have both of those documents available for public distribution. We'll reach out on our social media platforms also to let folks know that that's available.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And once again, So now we'll move on to item number 10, our Yucca Valley Senior Center improvements, Phase 2.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The recommendation before you tonight for this item that the Town Council amends the fiscal year 23-24 budget by allocating $998,000 of ARPA money, grant funds, and Special Revenue Fund 574 for the Senior Center Improvement Phase 2 project, and approves the professional design services contract with Holt Architectures in amount not to exceed $219,000, and authorize the mayor, the town attorney, and town manager to sign all necessary documents to implement the project. The town manager have worked with our district supervisor, Don Raw, office, and secured the $998,000 for us to do this project. This funding came from the American Rescue Plan Act, or what they famous for, ARPA. Two of the ARPA requirements are that all financial commitments for the project must be placed by December 2024, and all construction completed with the facility in use by December 2026. So the town requested Holt Architects to evaluate alternatives for a second phase of the senior center project improvement. Phase 2 will focus on the staff offices, reception area, restrooms, and the main entry to the center to be automated, not touch. So it's like open the door, open automatically. So after that, we have been discussing the project with Holt Architectural, and we came up with a configuration for the new restroom that's going to be at the senior center. If it goes well, we will be completed with construction of this project in September of 2025. So that is going to be about 5 months worth of improvement. So again, the recommendation before you tonight that the town council amends the fiscal year 23-24 budget by allocating the $998,000 ARPA fund and a Special Revenue Fund 574 for the Senior Center Improvement Phase 2 project, and approves the professional design service contract services with Holt Architects and not to exceed amount of $219,000, and authorize the mayor, town attorney, and town manager to sign all necessary documents to implement the project. That concludes staff report. Be happy to answer any question if there is any.
Thank you very much for that report, and I'll move it back to the community. Any comments or questions from the public? Yes, please. You step forward, please, so we can hear you.
My name's Kathy Betts, and my husband and I moved to Yucca Valley about a year and a half ago and go to the senior center all the time. We want to commend Nina and Zara and Vicky for a great job they do. And will the senior center have to be closed during this restoration?
Yes, it will.
It will. You mean I have to cook?
Okay, so that is one of the other things that is we are trying to work out, is to have the kitchen, which was done for the senior center as phase 1 open. And there is a door that can serve that. So we will work as much as we can to make it remain open.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your question and attending. Anyone else? Anyone online? Seeing none, back to council. No, it's been a long project and a goal of the town, and certainly driven by the community. Folks have come in over the years to talk about the need for improvements, and I think we've finally got to the point where we're able to address that. I'm very thankful for the community and also for our supervisor, Don Rao, for helping us to meet this milestone. So with that, any questions? Then I would like to go ahead and make the recommendation the town council amends the fiscal year 23-24 budget by allocating $998,000 of the ARPA grant funds in Special Reserve Fund 574 for the Senior Center Improvement Phase 2 project, and approves professional design services contract with Holt Architects in a not-to-exceed amount of $219,000, and authorizes the mayor, town attorney, and town manager to sign all necessary documents to implement the project.
I'll second the motion.
Councilmembers Droz,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Dennison.
Yes. And thank you for that. And now, moving over to Spring Summer 2023 Aquatics Program Review.
Yes, Mayor and Council, good
Splash.
evening. We wanted to take this opportunity with the Aquatics and Recreation Center on the horizon to spotlight our aquatics programming. And so with us tonight, our Recreation Supervisor Clayton Reardon and our 2023 Aquatics Manager Sherry Powell. Welcome.
Mayor and Council, thank you. So another great season at the pool this year. We have a new aquatics manager for the 2023 season. Sherry Powell came to us from base, and she stepped in, and this is the least amount of time I have spent at a pool during the summer in a decade. So huge thank you to Sherry and all the work that she did, as well as all of our staff. So the Town of Yucca Valley Aquatics Program continues to provide high-quality aquatics programming to the residents in our community. We still use the American Red Cross Learn to Swim program, and the main goal of our program is to provide swim classes for youth, and as well as promoting the health and wellness in our community through aquatics programming. Let's see. Oops. Which button did I hit? There we go. Okay. Let's see. So this was another busy year. The pool team consisted of Sherry, our aquatics manager, as well as 2 aquatic supervisors. We also had 11 swim instructors who are also certified as lifeguards, and 6 additional staff that were lifeguards. This was about as big of a staff as our program can handle. We operate Monday through Friday. We provide a variety of classes from our Learn to Swim program, junior lifeguarding, water aerobics, lap swim, and fun swim. Quick graph shows that our Learn to Swim program continues to be robust. It has rebounded to even bigger levels currently than we had pre-COVID, and we have done that in part by adding afternoon, evening programs. Those have been probably the #1 thing that we get feedback on. The town appreciates that. Our patrons appreciate that. In particular, we have families that were coming to our daytime programs, the 9 to 1 swim lessons, and the other parent that was normally working during those hours. They've shifted to the evenings, and now both parents can come and watch their kids during swim lessons. That's probably one of the top things that they comment on in terms of that addition to the program. I also want to comment that when we added this, we added 3 time slots in the evening, and we ended up adding a 4th in 2022. We added this expecting maybe on the high end, we thought a great number would be 70 to 80% capacity. We're at 99% capacity even after adding an additional like 200 something lessons. So it just keeps growing. I don't know who we're missing, but we still have wait lists. We still have repeat customers. This is easily our most robust program. Revenue, one of the things that we're always concerned about in aquatics. It's an expensive program to run. Learn to Swim is the cost recovery king of aquatics programming, and we hit $38,000 in revenue this year. Junior guards. The Junior Guard program is our farm league for our lifeguards and for our Learn to Swim program. This is essential. This is one of the, I'd say, typically the 3 essential parts of developing a robust staff. The other 2 are things a little bit outside of what we offer, but they are the youth swim team as well as the high school varsity swim team. So this is the one that we personally engage in, that we pull people from the community as kids begin to age out of swim lessons. This gives them a chance to engage, and this is a 4-week program providing about an hour and a half per day, 4 days a week, ages 12 to 14, and it sets them set some expectations about what it means to be a professional lifeguard and what they'll get into as they transition from junior guarding into a lifeguard. Water aerobics. Instructor Wanda Statham continues to teach classes. She's been doing this for decades. We have pictures of her in the office, newspaper clippings going all the way back to, I think, like the 80s or 90s from looking at what they're wearing. This is a great program with an enthusiastic following. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. She takes Wednesdays off. It's a 45-minute workout. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. Again, participation kinds of ebbs and flows. Wanda is one of the main drivers of this. We put this course, this program in our aquatics brochure. It goes in our guide. It goes on the website. But the general feeling is that where you see highs and lows, that's Wanda engaging with the community, engaging with her class outside the season, and kind of rallying people. Revenue, again, matches the attendance for the class. Lap swim, we only offered a morning lap swim. We did not have in-pool lighting, and so we were limited to daylight hours. We have to wrap things up around 7:30. We have a little bit more time earlier in the summer, but to offer a consistent program, by mid-August when we start shutting things down, we need to have all the patrons off the deck by around 7:30. So that's the time that our last swim lesson wraps up. So no evening lap swim this year due to pool lights, but we had a great morning lap swim. This has been one of our most robust programs in years. Great attendance and great revenue. Cost recovery on this program is pretty good, sits around 75%. Very strong showing for a lap swim program. Evening lap swim, we didn't have it this year, but just to show you where we were at, we did offer it last year when we had pool lights. And this was a first time that we had offered a 7:30 lap swim. So that program alone pulled $1,100 and provided, added to that total. So even without evening lap swim, we were pretty close to last year's numbers. Total lap swim revenue, we were about 600 behind last year, even though we only had half as much lap swim. Fun swim, another big driver, 1,800 people this year, average of 47 a day. We were also able to add in 4 Saturdays, thanks to town leadership providing some direction and some additional, giving us the green light and some extra funding. So we got 4 extra Saturdays in, so the community could come in and beat the heat. We were just behind last year with 1,800, and it brought in almost $6,500 of revenue. So very close to last year. Total drop-in participation. This is a combination of all of our water aerobics, all of our lap swim, as well as all of our fun swim. So we were a little bit behind last year, in part because of not having evening lap swim, and also in part because we were not able to offer the swim-in movies that we had originally planned for the year and that we had been able to do to a limited extent last year. Revenue, $12,500 from our drop-in programs, $2,500 behind last year. Same drivers that not having that evening lap swim or those special events. Annual aquatics participation, 8,900, almost 9,000 total participation for the year, and a total of $53,747. Areas for growth as we move towards the new aquatic center. Weekend programming is about getting lights back into the pool, getting those working, and weekend programs are the 2 main things that we'd like to implement over the next couple of summers while we move towards opening that new facility. Additional opportunities, inflatable play structures, think Ninja Warrior in the water, or some other kind of obstacle course. Just about a month ago, Palm Desert Aquatic Center, they brought theirs online, and it has been a huge hit. Other structures like climbing walls in the deep end of the pool or an aqua zip, a little bit less of a zip line, a little bit more of a rope swing. Those things are pretty popular and draw additional recreation swimmers and as successful amenities. Swim and movies, we did this last year, sold out. The public loves it. Kids are there as much to swim as they are to watch the movies. Adaptive swim, we're getting some members of the community that are participating during our private swim lessons. So we have one-on-one instructor to student, and we're able to provide, make some accommodations depending on what the customer's needs are. Again, private swim lessons, figuring out where the best times and how to best offer those. We have such a robust program. We don't have a lot of space. We don't have a lot of time, but we continue to look for additional opportunities to provide swim lessons. Adult lessons, we've had a handful of those over the last couple of years, and they're exclusively available during private swim lessons. Adult lessons, adults don't want to be in a crowded pool. They don't want to be out there during a fun swim. They don't want to be there during youth swim lessons. And then the last two things are kind of the other two key pillars to a robust and financially viable aquatics program. A variety of vertical swim or exercise programs, water walking, stand-up paddleboard, yoga kinds of programming, as well as aquatic therapy. Just other things to look at and think about as we move towards opening the Aquatics and Recreation Center, the YVARC, and I'd be happy to answer any questions following public comment.
Well, thank you for that overview. A lot of participation and continuing to grow, which is fantastic. You sound pretty confident that the lights will be working at the new pool, too. So I'm glad to hear
Very
that.
disappointed if they weren't.
So yeah, that was really good. I want to take it out to the audience and the community. Any questions from our audience this evening on this item? Seeing none, anyone online? Nothing? Well, I did like the split sessions. I thought to see that growth that you were able to achieve this year, even without the nighttime opportunities. Very, very flexible. It looks like your programming is kind of dynamic, just like swimming is, and you're navigating it very well. Very happy. Any questions? Yes, Pro Tem.
When it comes to swim lessons and things, do we have a pretty consistent source of instructors and certified people to teach those classes?
We have. Let's see. We've had, let's see, between 2013 and 2016, our American Red Cross lifeguard certification classes typically ranged about 6 to 9, based on the data that I could find before I came to the program. And since then, we've been ramping up over the years, and we've been training anywhere. COVID was a little bit of a hit. We weren't allowed to train anyone, but we've been doing somewhere between 9 and 14 per year. And we're getting some of Yucca's best and brightest. We routinely have ASB presidents and student body presidents and valedictorians and salutatorians. So it's been a huge boon to the program getting that level of applicant or that level of trainee into those classes and into that, like matriculating through our program.
Is there going to be an increase in need during for the new facility?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the lights. Yes.
I'll be able to go all night.
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, just adding, I mean, we're looking at different options. We're looking at what other cities are doing. Every February, March, the American Red Cross sends all of its instructors and aquatics administrators these bulletins and these PDFs on the national shortage on lifeguards. We've been very fortunate that we've been, we don't have our staff, like
disappearing,
picked over by neighboring communities, like some of the other, like tightly packed, high population dense areas. But yeah, we will have higher needs, especially as we move into weekend programs, figuring out how those pieces move and how we can do that without working people 7 days a week. So, yeah.
All right. Good job.
And if I could, can Sherry come up?
Oh, yeah.
I wanted Sherry to come up because we literally threw her in the deep end, so to speak. You know, she had to take over a program and just hit the ground running, and she did an amazing job. She surveys the customers. I get the stack, and survey after survey, just glowing reviews of the work that she does with the staff. And so I wanted to make sure I thanked you for helping us out this year, and thank you for coming in. You know, such an experienced manager was just a boon for us. So we really, really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed your assignment here.
I really appreciated being able to come back home. Yucca Valley is way back in the day. I don't know how many of you guys might remember me when I was just a lowly little WSI. And I really enjoyed coming back home, back to family. And I actually hope to see some of our staff, our demographics will be changing over the next few years. We were talking about some of the longevity and what we could do to maintain some of our services, especially once we go year-round. We are already talking to people of a variety of background and experience and age levels to where it's only going to help the staff to grow and develop even further. So thank you guys for the opportunity to come down.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to, I remember way back in the day, Sherry, working with Sherry, and you weren't a lowly WSI at that point. You were the expert back then too, as well. So welcome back. And Clayton, thank you for the report. And I love to see the planning for the new facility. And I think with what I saw tonight, we're in a pretty good position to plug into that facility when it happens and grow our programming. And I think the community's telling us that they want that, that they will respond to the programming. So that's all good signs. One other note, Wanda goes way back to the 70s, late 70s, when she first bounced into town and started doing water aerobics. So she's been around a long time doing that, but we thank her for that. She's just an energizer bunny that just doesn't quit. So yeah, thank you for the report. Good job.
And Councilmember Droz?
Clayton, thank you for the great presentation, all the information. That's really great for the community to know. And I want to thank the entire staff there at the Aquatic Center, and and I want to welcome Sherry also. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the work on the program. It's great to see the participation, the reviews, and the numbers speak for themselves. There's a lot of work going on there. And I know with that pool, it's been a challenge over the years, not just for the staff working the programs within it, but also for the town taking care of the pool and making that work for us. So we're continuing to move forward, but the new center will be here soon, and I'm glad it's on your radar. Both of you guys speak that, the energy that's there will help attract those that will need to have it be a success. So thank you for the presentation. It's a receive and file. Thanks. Next up, future agenda items. Anything from the council? Nothing? Okay. And so right now we have an opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone that would like to have any public comment tonight, please leave your name with the clerk. Town council takes the time to consider your comments and items of concern which are not on the agenda. When you are called to speak, please state your name and community of residence. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Inappropriate behavior which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting will result in the forfeiture of your public comment privileges. The town council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not on the printed agenda. Anyone wishing to speak this evening? Seeing none, online? No? Then we'll close that, and we'll move it back to staff.
Captain, do you have anything this evening?
Yes, thank you. Mayor, members of the council, I saw a couple of you at National Night Out today. Thank you very much for attending. We kicked off at 4 o'clock in the Walmart parking lot and definitely saw an increase in the people walking through. We had about 20 different displays between the town of Yucca Valley and the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, and several others. So it was great, and then it was only about halfway done before we came over for this. So it was good. Lots of kids out there having a good time. So, and Mayor, as you know, we got to interact with some community members, had a whole bunch of my personnel there, so I think we made some good community connections to let them know what all we can do for them. Secondly, our deputy handler, Deputy Bacher, is out in Tallahassee, Florida right now with our new bloodhound pup. We'll be flying back early next week, so hopefully the next meeting or two you can put us on the agenda for an employee introduction, and we can introduce you to our beautiful new bloodhound. That's going to be great. We got the special car delivered and kind of setting up what's going to work best with a schedule, and we're very excited to have the puppy back. And then lastly, I've talked about it before, but we started a quality of life position at our station. This is a county-funded position, but certainly spends time here in Yucca Valley as well as throughout the Morongo Basin. And this deputy sheriff will be working with residents and business owners and both councils here in 29 Palms for those quality of life issues, something that, you know, a lot of times we get a call for service, whether it be a homeless related issue or a business that's struggling or even neighbors who aren't getting along, and maybe it doesn't rise to the level of a crime, but I know quality of life is very important to the council, and we're going to have a deputy to not only handle that initial call for service if he is working at the time, but really take a long-term approach and follow up with those reporting parties for a few weeks until the problem resolves, or at least point them toward resources if it's not a sheriff's department issue. But he literally just started back today. We had him selected a while ago. He was working down in Yucaipa, going around with their deputy to see how they do it, and then he just came back from new daddy leave. So today was his first day, and he was running around. We had the Hope team up in the Morongo Basin, spent a significant amount of time here in Yucca Valley. Talking to some of those individuals who might be in need of resources. So he's going to be really a local asset instead of waiting for the Hope team to be able to come up because they cover several different areas. This deputy is assigned to our station. So multiple times a week we can send them to check on our residents and those in need of services. And I think we're going to be able to serve residents of Yucca Valley even better with that quality of life position.
Thank you, Captain. Appreciate that. Jordan, Alex, or Sue, anything?
Yeah. First of all, I just, again, would like to welcome Victor to our team. He'll be tremendous help for me with all these exciting projects that we're going to be, looking forward for. Just a couple of updates I would like to give. One is for the Essex Park. So for Essex Park, we are, due to supply chain issues, there is a delay on the shelter that is we are ordering. So we are looking at the third week of November for a completion of the park. Right now, the addition to the small dog park is completed. The walls are there, the fencing are there, and the grass is in there. So the contractor right now is working with, for the lighting. We received the light poles at the site, but they were damaged for whatever reason from shipping. So we rejected them and we sent them back, and now we're waiting for the new poles to come back, which is expected to be done in the next 2 weeks. So after that will be received, we'll start putting these lights on, and hopefully the shelter, either the shelter will be, or the shelters will be in the beginning or to mid of November to be installed. That will complete the project at that point. The other update I would like to give you is about the aquatic center, which is, you saw the numbers today, very impressive, even though it's lower than normal, but expected to be triple, maybe 4 times that when we have our aquatic center built. So we are opening the bids for the aquatic center on the 19th. October 19th, and will be in the first meeting of November, I think November 7, with a recommendation for a contractor to start on that project. So that's an exciting news. I say again, a few inches toward the end. Hopefully that is something that we will deliver to the community within the time alluded. That concludes if any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Sir.
Quick question. The dog park. So the end of November, but will anything be open before that in phases, or it's totally closed till everything's done?
We prefer to have it closed until everything is completed. It's just for the protection of everyone. We were supposed to have the opening or the estimation completion originally at the end of October.
Yes.
But because of the addition of the additional for the small dog park, that is extended it about 15 days. So I'm hoping that is with that, so that we have a grand opening hopefully at the third week of November. If that is, we'll work with the town manager and the staff to see what is the best day. I'll let you know when the grand opening, but we'd rather have it open with the full, everything installed.
The other issue tied to that, and thank you, Alex, the other issue tied to that is right now the park is under the control of the contractor. And if we start implementing partial use, that can void the warranties that are provided by the contractor. So we've had those discussions internally because we know the community wants to be able to use the park. But the overriding issue is the warranty that's provided and the contractor being responsible for that work.
Yeah, thank you. And Alex, on that, I think that's appropriate because when we do actually open it for the community, we want it to be everything that we had talked about. So that part is important. We need to do it right one time, and it is a little bit of a delay. I'm assuming we'll be reaching out on site with notification and through our social media. So, yeah, thank you. It's not, we don't want to hear that, but I'm excited to have it be done the best we can, provide, and that's what's important.
Mayor, I have a couple of items. The fall winter guide is out. Camera shot of this. Get the guide. The digital version is available on our website. There's mass mailing going on right now to Town of Yucca Valley households. They'll get a copy of this in the mail. It is going to be inserted in the High Desert Star tomorrow. So it's out there in the community. It's also available at town offices and all of that. So it has all of our holiday events, all of our activities from October through March. So take a look. Got a lot of great programming there. October at the Senior Center, super busy. We have a community rummage sale on the 14th. So if you're into sustainable living and you want to look for some items, or if you're doing some early Christmas shopping, good place to go. Senior Center. 14th, community rummage sale. They're also having a rockin' Halloween party. The seniors really know how to party, and they're having a Halloween party, and they just go all out. The costumes, amazing. And we're also accepting youth commission applications through November 1st. So we want to let the public know about that. If you're interested in the youth commission, get an application online or pick one up at our offices or at the school offices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, a couple items this evening. Your Planning Commission meeting next Tuesday, October 10th, there's a number of public hearings scheduled. One is Starbucks West, Starbucks in the Stater Brothers West Center. One of the information items you may hear coming out of that hearing is discussion about the intersection of State Route 62 and Barberry. As you know, that's open for left-hand turn movements in both directions, north and south off of Barberry, and staff is having some conversation about the possible need for the median islands to extend and close off those uncontrolled turning movements. Also, a public hearing on that agenda is for meeting the mandates of state law. As of January 1 of 2024, the town has to provide for the opportunity for the delivery of medicinal marijuana from somewhere within the town limits. The Planning Commission will be holding a public hearing. The town attorney's office is staffing that item and will be presenting that item to the town council. Again, that is a state mandated issue that the town's required to address. Town council gave direction at your member meeting of September 5th for amending the development code for offsite improvements for change of use projects. That public hearing is scheduled before the Planning Commission for the 10th. Commission will have their second discussions on branding mascots and statues, as well as special events before their public hearings on October 24th. Final comment, we are at 90 available short-term vacation rental permits at this time. That concludes my comments. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So that 90 represents an increase in the number from where we were, say, 6 months ago.
So when starting out this year, the number hovered around 45, then it moved up to around 55, then up to around 65, it bounced up to 75, back down to 65, and now as of at the end of September, a number of non-renewals came in, or did not come in, however you want to state that, and bumped that number up to 90. Now that number is going to fluctuate up and down, but over the course of, let's call it the last 10 months, that number has essentially doubled from around 45 up to 90.
Thank you, Shane. Along those lines, one of your future agenda items that the council typically receives in the fall is an update on our short-term vacation rental ordinance. Staff has already started conversations about when that will come back to the council for your review. Appreciation to the captain and our work with the Sheriff's Department in trying to find some innovative ways. I don't know if you pulled the nexus from the Community Livability Survey this evening on some of the priorities that have come up in this year's survey results that were not in there before, one of them being some of the needs in the community on homelessness, and we need to think differently about that and how we might be able to deliver those services. So I appreciate the effort of the community. What was the name of the position title? Community?
Quality of life.
Quality of life. Thank you for that position. I think it's going to be very, very beneficial. Council's received a couple of comments, and the town staff has two related to some issues at our parks, related to dogs, to drinking fountains. So staff is working on those and will be coming out with specific steps that can hopefully address some of those issues. Same thing with Western Joshua Tree. We've seen a couple of them fall around town, both on private property and one now in our public right-of-way over on Chemehuave. And we're working with that private property owner to make sure that they know their obligation. That one affects public utilities coming through the tree while it's laying down or trying to lay down. So a couple of nuances there that I think highlight the need for the town to make sure that we're proactive in understanding and being able to communicate to the residents what it is that they're and how they can go about resolving those issues. So we'll be working through that. Lastly, Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to get out and do a little bit of travel over the last week or so. I was able to go to Colorado, see a rec center similar to what we're building and have a tour there. So that was very, very helpful. Hopefully at your next council meeting, we'll show some pictures of that, as well as spend some time in Austin at the International City Managers meeting, commiserating sometimes, but also learning with other city managers. So it was a very, very beneficial time. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And I'm very, very thankful to Shane and the entire team for holding down the fort while I was gone. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you for those updates. I appreciate that. And I'll bring it back to the council, and we'll start off with Councilmember Droz.
All right, I just want to welcome the new employees. Welcome to Yucca Valley and welcome to working at Yucca Valley. The National Night Out, I went by there for a short time, and that was looked like a good turnout before I left, so I'm sure it improved throughout the evening when everybody was going shopping. And it was great with the big ladder up there, and that got a lot of attention. And the quality of life position, I've had a couple people contact me, and they were the Hatfields and McCoys, so maybe it could help those neighbors. So other than that, everybody have a great week, 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Councilmember Schooler.
Yes, I'd also like to welcome Victor and Michael. From what I hear, they're pretty impressive resumes and good staff. So, and also thank Shane Massoud for dropping by from Southern California Edison. And also thank you to Curtis and the staff for that report card. I think looking at the trends and the report card compared to last time, I think it's very impressive. and such a good indicator of the work that we're doing and where we need to go as well. But I think it's a very, very good report. So thank you to all the staff for that. That's it for me.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay. Want to welcome Victor and Michael also to the town of Yucca Valley, the workforce, and we're looking forward to having you participate greatly in our little community of workers here. Also want to welcome Sherry in the aquatics. Thank you for your hard work this summer and stepping into that position. It's going to be exciting to see the new facility and how things blossom and bloom into really something even better. And you've been doing a wonderful job, and looking forward to the new facility. I think that'll be awesome. I want to also welcome Shane Massoud and tell him that we're looking forward to working with him and Edison in the future. And the community livability study was impressive. And it looks like the town is trying hard to reach the expectations of our citizens, and there are lots of things that we can do to improve in the future. But it looked like it was a pretty good report card. And thanks for making the slides available for the livability study thing on our website. That'll be helpful. Also, quality of life deputy will be a great asset to our area, and I thank our sheriff and the department for having that. And we're all looking forward to seeing the puppy. Hope everything gets back. And sounds like we're on to a good track, so we'll see you next month then.
Well, thank you, Pro Tem.
2 weeks, yeah.
I think everything's been covered, but I would like to say thanks to Sherry and Clayton for a good report on that. And I think the message in the air is always talking about the ARC and the things that are happening. And it's going to be a really exciting next couple of years watching that program develop, and all these things coming together to be successful. Alex said something that was almost alarming, that it'll be fourfold the amount of participants, but we're also challenged with getting overhead to handle it. So let's see how we can work all that out. But I'm very appreciative of all the efforts. It's been a lot of hard work. And also Victor and Michael, we can't thank you guys enough for taking, the opportunity to help us out, and you are part of our team, and that's what we need. And I want to give a shout out to the captain here. You talked about the quality of life, and I brought up that I'm working towards a sense of well-being in our community. That's what it is, whatever it may be that gives people that feeling. But number one is always our public safety. And we had an incident like I talked about. We talked about it a few days ago. It came up again last night, talking about how it's moving. And then today, things were handled very quickly. So you had your team out there. They came right over, very professional, very engaging with the community, and gave them that sense of well-being that we have the right people in our town to go ahead and keep a safe community for us. So thank you for that. That was very responsive. So I really like that. But National Night Out was really fun over there. A lot of people, really, I was happy to see, and I think I was talking to Curtis on the phone, there's a bunch of lowriders over here, and there's a car show over here, and, and it was really nice because it wasn't just the business end of it. It gave an opportunity to people bring their kids, do what they wanted to do, and it was a good vibe over there. And also for Essex Park, I just want to tell the community, hold on, it's going to be beautiful. So that's all I have for tonight. With that, we'll go ahead and begin to close down the meeting. With the only announcement I have is our next regular meeting of the council will be held on Tuesday, October 17th, right here in the Yucca Valley Community Center room at 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.
Okay.